Hello, spacing out for a minute. I'm Randy today. I'm a recovering alcoholic. I'm here to read this book, the Daily Reflections book, the AA Daily Reflections book, for March 31st, 2026. It's called something here. Oh, wrong. It's called No One Denied Me Love. On the AA calendar, it was year 2. A newcomer appeared at one of these groups. He soon proved that his was a desperate case and that above all he wanted to get well. He said, "Since I am the victim of another addiction, even worse stigmatized than alcoholism, you may not want me among you." That's from the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions book, found on pages 141 and 142. Here's one copy of such a book. I doubt you can read that fine print, but there's the book. Now the text here says, "I came to you." This is apparently somebody else, not this a newcomer appearing at one of these groups. He soon proved that his case was desperate. The text here is written about somebody else with a similar experience, I believe. The text begins, "I came to you, a wife, mother, woman who had walked out on her husband, children, family. I was a drunk, a pillhead, a nothing. Yet no one denied me love, caring, a sense of belonging. Today, by God's grace and the love of a good sponsor and a home group, I can say that through you and Alcoholics Anonymous, I am a wife, a mother, a grandmother, and a woman, sober, free from pills, responsible. Without a higher power I found in the fellowship, my life would be meaningless. I am full of gratitude to be a member of good standing in Alcoholics Anonymous," period, the end of the reading. If I get all long-winded like I normally do, this battery will likely die on me, and it will probably cut some thought off. In one way, it's maybe the thought it will cut off wasn't necessary, so that can be a form of self-editing. However, because I'm debating myself again, I don't know if that's the right terminology. I'm having a debate with myself, my ego, and my, I don't know, psyche, personality, something, or because I reviewed the reading I did yesterday, and I'm just going to let everything go because this is all off the cuff, unedited. So, but there's some things I maybe wanted to clarify, that's for sure. Let's just say that. And then I of course, not of course, sometimes, like today I looked this up. Let's just talk about this quickly. Quickly. Without a higher power I found in the fellowship, that doesn't necessarily mean that this person doesn't necessarily mean this person, this woman, a mother, responsible, no longer a pillhead, and sober, had found a higher power, maybe not necessarily comprising of the human beings in the group, that fellowship. Let's read this again now. "Without a higher power I found in the fellowship, my life would be meaningless," period. So I think she's, well, one of two ways. at the least. Coming into Alcoholics Anonymous, from like my story, simply put, from the gutter into a fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, that fellowship, that's the general area of where I found a higher power after about 3 years, which that's up to us. Now, this next statement. I am full of gratitude to be a member of good standing in Alcoholics Anonymous. Right from the traditions, there's a lot of things that AA, these steps are suggested. It's not a rigid command. The 12 traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous. The third is the only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking, period. That's the end of the requirements. If you say you're a member, if you say you're a poor member, if you say you're a good member, if you say like this person, a member of good standing, that's good enough. That fully satisfies any requirement for AA membership, as long as, here's the little caveat part, the hook, I guess, is the second part of that third tradition. The actual only requirement is a desire to stop drinking if you want to be a member of AA. And the way I look at that even is quite free, open, inclusive, and easygoing, because of like where I came from, the gutter to the meeting rooms at large. If they were going to lay a bunch of, you need to shave or something, man, I would have been out of there and likely dead in the gutter that afternoon. That's hardly an exaggeration. I was in pretty rough shape, and I wasn't in the mood, nor did I have the resources to do much of anything other than realize I needed some help, and AA was likely a place I could get, if nothing else, I could get a beginning into sobriety, and that is certainly what happened. So that my interpretation of that third tradition, the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking, is even if you're out drinking and for whatever reason you decide to go to an AA meeting and you arrive at that place of the meeting and you've still got your drink in your hand, like I've made this comparison before. I think the character's name was Julian in Trailer Park Boys. That's, I believe, it used to be at least a Netflix only thing. And this guy Julian always had a drink in his hand, although, well, whatever. Always, every shot in that entire series, I think. And my interpretation of this desire to stop drinking, say the one person, very much like myself, although this part, I wasn't out actively drinking that day. I don't think that I first showed up at AA. However, if you were, it fits my interpretation of the desire to stop drinking, meaning that you're actively drinking, like Julian, you got this drink in your hand, you arrive at the place of the AA meeting, you come up to the building or the hut or the teepee, the wigwam, the sweat lodge, or wherever it may be. I'm not saying that AA meetings are at those places, just wherever it's at, you arrive there, at least if you have the desire to stop drinking while you're in the club, set that drink down, and then come into the meeting. Whether there's some meeting proper inside of a door in a room or a flap on a teepee or whatever, if it's just a line on the ground or whatever, as an indication that you have a desire to stop drinking, at least for the next little bit, set the drink down, come into the meeting, try not to be disruptive. It'll be understood that if you're having a really difficult time because you're just loaded, I don't think anyone's going to call the police. This is all up to, there could be some violent altercation of revenge or something happening, which I've never seen. I've never even heard of that. But people, sometimes their wires get frayed, and, especially drunken alcoholics. I can recall a time in my dark past where, maybe I felt like some retribution was in order, and I wasn't thinking clearly, and I was hopped up on goofballs. So it's that type of thing's a possibility. However, somebody comes in, they set their drink down on the sidewalk or whatever, they come in the building, they start in the meeting, and they don't say a word at all. That's perfectly acceptable also. No explanation required. The only membership is a desire to stop drinking. Even if that's just indicating that desire by setting the drink down, coming into the club, not being disruptive as far as you can help it, and then leaving again without even saying one syllable. Perfectly acceptable. You're a member in good standing. Okay, so that's all coming from this thing, what this writer said in the text, is that the gratitude in, what was the title of today's reading? And then I'm going to try and wrap this up. No one denied me love. Oh, and to further my theory of how I think this book is set up. So no one denied me love. And like I just gave you this little story about my thing, about how I wish I had a better word, inclusive, Alcoholics Anonymous, the fellowship of the members. You're a member if you say you're a member. Like I think I already said that. If you say you're a member in good standing, fine. I looked up the technicality of drinking near beer. I don't know if I have time to get into this. There's like 3 basic camps or clubs or tracts of thinking, or tracks of thinking on that. Is like, near beer is like less than some percent of alcohol per by volume, less than 0.5%, I think. So I worked that out years ago. 10 of those would equal 5 full percent, which is roughly like your can of Budweiser, as far as all that goes. So you need to drink 10 of those to get the effect of 1 Budweiser. 10 near beers, 1 Budweiser. You drink 20 of those things, that's 2 beers. Legally, if you weigh 150 pounds and you're a woman or a male, you drink 3 of them guys. So if you drink 30 near beers, that's 30 times 12 ounces. You're going to be sitting probably at a BAC of roughly the legal limit. Typically in the United States is like 0.08 blood alcohol concentration, at least the last I heard. It used to be 0.10, and then they moved it down. They might have moved it down again. Anyhow, what I'm saying is that it's got some alcohol in it. You drink enough, it's going to affect your brain and, importantly, your addiction again. Just like drinking a shot of alcohol of 80 proof, 60 proof, 40 proof, whatever it is, cough syrup, mouthwash, 10%, liqueur, cooking flavorings, vanilla and things like that are mixed with alcohol. Okay, so uh, what am I trying to say? Member in good standing and just a little bit of well, what about you drinking your beer and say you're sober for 100 years and you just were drinking your beer this morning? 10 of them even. I think maybe the actual drinking of that near beer, that slight quantity, and maybe any impairment that you get from that isn't the largest issue there. What would be, in one instance, be a larger issue is maybe your secrecy about that. Like you're afraid of some kind of reprisal from the group that if they found out you were drinking near beer, you would be ostracized, kicked out, punished, somehow canceled from Alcoholics Anonymous. That has never happened either in my experience. Granted, limited experience. I've been going to meetings this last stretch for like a good solid 19 years. There was a gap of 5 years of drinking before that, where the program really never left me, which that's a whole nother phenomena. I get that once. I just looked that up this morning. A singular occurrence is a phenomenon, I believe, and many occurrences is a phenomena. Okay, so whichever one that was, whatever it was that just drains me mentally and I forget what I'm talking about. Oh, the three basic camps of is near beer a violation of your sober birthday or your sobriety date. Some people would say it's got alcohol, so yes it is. Set that clock back to zero. You have zero sobriety up at the point of drinking even a sip. Here's another thing. Just having a sip of that drink, it is your sobriety clock is reset to zero at that point. Now, no one's going to like arrest you if you come in and say, I've been sober 30 years and period. And then they find out somehow, or you admit later, or whatever happens, that you've maybe been drinking near beer the entirety of your claimed 30-year sobriety. That's all fine too. And the way I look at all this, but if you try and suppress that and lie about it, I think, because like the first principle in this program is honesty. And if you look at, here's another, let me posit my theory on how this book works. It's the month of March, third month. And I kind of look at humans as being, I looked this up again too, we're humans, if you're human, which I believe you probably are, 93% predictable in our behaviors. Fairly, it's highly likely that we can predict what another human being is going to behave like. If you just kind of look at some of the circumstances that might be affecting this human, there's a 93 percentile chance that you're going to come up with the right interpretation of what this person, human being, may do. And it's accurate to some degree. Again, that brain, it just drained the energy required for the rest of this thought. Humans being predictable, slipping in a bit. The honesty part about this program. If you look at, okay, here's part of my theory and everything else about that we're in the third month. human beings, predictable such as they are, or at least in my interpretation of it, and I'll say this, my juvenile understanding of human predictability indicates that at the end of each year, on New Year's Eve, at least in America, it's like somehow this idea has been planted in the U.S. populace, at least the one I'm familiar with, is that in the new year, all this great new stuff can obviously be possible, but that's just as likely to occur tomorrow as it is on some arbitrary date, January 1st, with the new year. You know, it's 26 right now. So if there's 12 months and there's 12 steps and 12 principles, we're still within the first third? Or would this be we're just now ending today, the first quarter. 3 times 12, or 3 times 4 is 12. The first quarter's ending. So being a predictable human being, a lot of us had made a vow towards the end of December of 25 or whatever year, that in the new year, I'm not going to consume alcohol at all anymore, or some such thing. I'm not going to drink whiskey anymore. I'm only drinking vodka and beer, and never on a school night, only on the weekend, on Fridays, say, or Saturday or whatever. And then they try to stick to that. And so I believe the way this book, Daily Reflections book, this is a book of reflections by AA members for AA members, primarily, not restricted only to those people. Being a predictable human, we're in the first quarter, the first couple months of the new year, and maybe our, what do people call it, the resolutions. I've driven a stake in the ground, and I'm not budging from this pledge of sobriety or whatever people. I'm losing 3 pounds by April 1st, or any such thing. We start to lose a lot of drive and steam right away. Probably the first. There's a stat on this. I used to know it. 90 days. Yeah, so we're right there, aren't we? There's 30 days in a month, roughly. 30 habits and addiction. Habits: smoking, drinking, sex, gambling, caffeine. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of other habitual and addictive behaviors that humans partake in. If you want to change that, like smoking, I quit smoking, I quit drinking, I quit a lot of the caffeine, a lot of, anyways. If there's some behavior you want to change, like you come up with this New Year's resolution and you start to lose faith or drive or confidence that you can continue in this absence of this old habit you used to have, I think there's going to be wiggle room, sloppiness, a large tolerance, or maybe an overlap. Here's one I know well, I think. Nicotine replacement therapy in the form of gum or lozenges or any other way this might be administered. It wasn't so much, but this was primarily a giant part of the addiction to smoking, was the substance I was smoking, which was primarily almost 100% tobacco, mixed with all kinds of chemicals, at least, and God knows what kind of stuff might have fallen into the hopper while they're grinding it up and loading or whatever. Okay, so this thing's telling me it's going to die at any second, I think, maybe 30 seconds. So you need to start a new addiction problem or a new habit. 90 days, I think. No, 30 days. 30 days to get into the new way of doing things, and then like another 30 days and it becomes solidified. And then at the end of another 30 days, this might be all wrong. It's close though. That new habit has now mentally replaced the old habit. No more overlap needed. The new habit's fully assumed some level of priority or preference in your thought process. It's like, boy, would I like a beer. No, that turns into, boy, would I like a near beer maybe. No, I would really like just some ice water or whatever it is. So here, I'm going to charge this battery, take a walk around the block or something, I think, and come back and talk some more, I think, because I like talking. Thank you for coming by here and listening, I hope, and I hope to be helpful in some way. In regards to many things, but primarily recovering from alcoholism. That's who I is. That's what I am. What does the character in Black Sheep? No, Tommy Boy. The character portrayed by Dan Aykroyd, Zelensky of Zelensky Auto Parts. I make parts for the American working man because that's who I am and that's who I care about, I think is what Zelensky says. I'm an alcoholic. That's who I make these videos for, primarily, because that's who I care about, primarily. Well, that's close to being accurate. And that's who I care about. However, Zelensky would say that. My God, that movie's 40 years old probably by now. I'm still ticking though. I just got a new lease on life, let's put it that way, fairly recently. This would be like number 2 or 3, possibly 5 new leases on life I've had since becoming sober. Things work out. It's amazing. So the first report is not the last report. And now this thing indicated, yeah, there's a 30% charge left in here. What's another movie I've seen? No, not movie, television show from the 90s. That's 35 years ago, roughly. It's an episode of Seinfeld where Kramer, for whatever reason, is in a car with the car salesman, and they're out driving as a test drive, I believe, but it's very low on fuel, and then it finally, like this meter on my fuel gauge for the camera, has turned red, indicating you need a charge for this situation. In a car, it might say empty or a big E, and then some kind of indication strongly advising you need to get some fuel, or you'll become, well, and if you don't get fuel, you're going to end up stranded. So they're like, no, don't, let's see, push it, see how far it will go, rather than doing that with this camera right now, because it will abruptly just end, and then I won't get to say goodbye. So thank you for coming by here, and I intend, this could change, to come back after the battery's charged and talk more. As you might see, I'm in a different location from my normal place. I've installed some actual wallpaper for some color. And so I had left my spare batteries behind, I think. I don't think I have the right ones for this camera right now. Here's another thing. Just Les Stroud, the Survivor man, he drags around a lot of camera gear. He's said sometimes 60, 70 pounds camera, tripod, selfie stick, batteries, even memory cards. That's hardly a gram or two or whatever, but it adds up. And he lugs that stuff everywhere he goes. And I didn't lug anything but the camera, the one rechargeable battery in it, and one memory card, and left the rest of the charging rig and all that stuff, associated paraphernalia elsewhere that I may not retrieve. But I can recharge this battery, go walk around, and get a whole new bunch of different thoughts. And come in here and just blah, talking about all this stuff that may or may not have anything to do with sobriety. So, well, anyways, hey, thank you for coming by here and sticking up, putting up with me here. And again, I'm still trying to be helpful with this. Even all the little tangents and sideways things I get into, like Les Stroud and Seinfeld and whatever it may be. I try and connect everything together, because maybe I've got issues with that. Thank you for coming by, and I'll get back with you later. Goodbye for now.